We're off and running. Welcome back into the show. This is the San Francisco 49ers Report. My name is Chase Sr., and coming up on the show, we have another playoff game to talk about after the Niners pulled off that insane upset win over the Philadelphia Eagles yesterday, and that sets us up with Niners Seahawks in the divisional round. So we're going to preview that game coming up here on the show. But first, it's a Victory Monday if you're stoked about that Niners win and you're pumped up to take the Seahawks on once again. I want you to hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. Celebrate that epic postseason win. I want at least 1,000 likes on today's show. And what an upset victory it was for the Niners. San Francisco knocking off the Super Bowl champions on the road in a hostile environment against a very talented team. And when I think about that win for the Niners, all I can continue to think about is how great of a job the Niners did with their coaching, their preparation, and their in-game adjustments. That was an elite, and I mean elite coaching display from both Kyle Shanahan and Robert Saleh. You had Brock Purdy, who struggled a little bit throughout that game, throwing those 2 interceptions to Quinyon Mitchell, coming through in the guts of the game. What a clutch game-winning drive. That is what you pay your franchise quarterback to do. Against one of the top defenses in the sport, on the road, in a playoff game, difficult atmosphere, Brock Purdy delivered. And he did it with his arm, he did it with his legs. And the Niners in this game, because they were so talented, or so injured, did not have the talent edge. That Eagles roster might be the best in the NFL. And the Niners beat them because they had belief, they had better coaching, they had resilience. And that's the thing about this team all year that's allowed them to have this Cinderella season, despite losing marquee players like Fred Warner, Nick Bosa, and George Kittle. They keep believing and they keep fighting. And that's what the analytics and the box score never shows. And with the backup defense, with the bunch of players just pieced together by Robert Saleh, San Francisco gave up 19 points yesterday. And in back-to-back weeks against Seattle and against Philadelphia, this defense, as far as points given up, has actually fared pretty well. So the Niners win that wild card matchup, the shocker of wild card weekend, 23-19. Brock Purdy, 18-31, 262 yards, 2 touchdowns, and yes, the 2 picks, but he flushed those. He overcame them. He had that short memory, and when he needed to come through in the guts of the game, he was able to do it. Now, Christian McCaffrey had a difficult time running the ball, and the running defense for the Eagles, a weakness of that unit, and McCaffrey only had 15 carries for 48 yards. But what did he do? He did what he's done all year. He did what he's done throughout his career. Found a way to impact the game as an all-purpose back, running it and receiving it. 6 catches, 66 yards, and 2 touchdowns on the receiving end of the Jawan Jennings trick play touchdown that Kyle Shanahan hadn't called since the Niners were on the road playing the Saints many years ago when it was called like the Debo smash play and Raheem Mostert was on the receiving end. So JJ, 1 catch for 45 yards, but he threw the 29-yard touchdown. And then that Niners defense able to shut down that Eagles offense. Saquon Barkley ran for over 100 yards, but that Eagles offense difficult to watch because the coordinating is so awful, especially when you compare it to what Kyle Shanahan is doing with this Niners offense. Now, I do want to get to this topic of conversation. Is that win for the Niners yesterday on the road against the Eagles, taking down the defending Super Bowl champions, the best win of Kyle Shanahan's career? I can see why people would go that route, right? Because of the adversity that the Niners faced within that game, the adversity that they have faced all year long, and how impressive of a victory that was considering how shorthanded the Niners were. But I don't think it's the best win of Kyle Shanahan's career. I do think it's one of the best wins of Kyle Shanahan's career. You think back to the NFC Championship game in 2023 when the Niners were down 24-7 at halftime. I remember being live for a watch party for that game. Everybody was saying, fire Steve Wilkes, fire Kyle Shanahan. And then the Niners mount that ferocious comeback. The 2021 divisional round against the Green Bay Packers, I also think, was better than the 2025 wildcard dub against the Eagles yesterday. That Packers team, number 1 seed in the NFC. Aaron Rodgers that year was the MVP. The snow was coming down at Lambeau Field. It was a defensive-oriented game. The Niners got the block punt return for a touchdown for Talanoa Hufanga. I think that win was better than yesterday's. And then you also think about the 2023 divisional round against the Packers. Niners were coming off that bye because they got the number 1 seed. They had to come back late in the rain. Brock Purdy, once again, really good in the guts of the game. And then the 2021 wild card win on the road against the Cowboys in the first round, that was a statement victory by Kyle Shanahan as well. And so, with the Niners beating Philadelphia yesterday, it leads us to a divisional round matchup, which features one of the best rivalries in the National Football League. Niners, Seahawks, both teams in the NFC West, all 3 NFC West teams that won 12 or more games still alive in the NFC playoff bracket. The Seahawks, 7-point favorites. That is the opening line. So the Niners getting a touchdown. They were 6-point dogs against the Eagles, and the over-under for this game at 45.5. You know what I hate is how this game is taking place Saturday, January 17th. The NFL completely screwed the Niners with this scheduling. And I know that when the number 1 seed is determined, that number 1 seed usually gets the benefit of the doubt. They get a little bit of a scheduling break, and usually they play on that Saturday, right? But the Niners had to cross the country, travel to Philadelphia. They played on Sunday, and now they have to go on the road, short week in Seattle. But the Rams and the Bears, who played on Saturday, get to get an extra day of rest, and they play on Sunday. Why not just have the Rams and Bears face off in Chicago on Saturday? They get normal rest. And then the Niners and Seahawks could play on Sunday. They would get normal rest. Instead, this banged up Niners team has to go on the road short week, and they get the short end of the stick. They already have so much going against them. Now they have the schedule going up against them as well. I just disagree with the scheduling from the NFL. It literally makes no sense, and it's insane, especially for a sport that requires so much physicality and recovery. As far as some Niners injury news, these injuries taking place in that game yesterday. George Kittle, heartbreaker, crushing, tearing his Achilles. That's going to go well into the 2026 season. And then Jair Brown, the safety, dealt with a hamstring injury. He missed the rest of the game, and his status is in doubt for this game against the Seahawks. And so, in the place of Kittle, it'll be Jake Tonches. He has proven to everybody that he's a really legitimate tight end in this league. He's big, has good size, he moves well, he has really good hands. What the Niners miss with Kittle, his blocking, especially in the ground game. Tonches doesn't give you that, but he does have a pretty decent rapport with Brock Purdy. And then one of the unsung heroes for this Niners defense yesterday, rookie safety Marquis Siegel, the 5th-round pick out of Kansas State. He started early in the year for the Niners, including week 1 on the road against the Seahawks. Then he was pretty much benched and relegated to a special teams role. He comes in yesterday against the Eagles. I thought he played really, really well, and that's a credit to the rookie for staying ready. Now, who you got in this football game? I'll give you my prediction a little bit later. SF for the Niners, SEA for the Seattle Seahawks. I was in hot water with a lot of you for my prediction last week. Stay tuned for my prediction for this game coming up here just around the corner. This episode of the 49ers Report is brought to you by PrizePicks. Whether you're starting a new routine to kick off 2026 or you're making player picks for the first time, trying something new can be hard. But in life and on PrizePicks, it always feels good to be right. With high-pressure playoff matchups every weekend and elite hoops action almost every night, the action never stops. And PrizePicks lets you take control. New feature alert, PrizePicks now has early payouts. If your player gets off to a hot start, you now have the option to cash out of those winnings before the game even finishes. You can also find your community on PrizePicks. With the new social feeds feature, you can share PrizePicks with your friends and copy lineups from winners with the single click. Copy lineups you like or use them as inspiration for your own picks. You can even follow PrizePicks partners like us and tail or fade our picks with just one click. 3-pick power play. Brock Purdy more than 237.5 passing yards. Does he flush what happened in Week 18? Christian McCaffrey more than a half rushing or receiving touchdown. He wants to have a better game because he fumbled in the red zone against Seattle. He would have had a touchdown potentially on that play. Jackson Smith and Jigba, more than a half rushing or receiving touchdown. Diamador Lenore gets another shot at him. Download the PrizePicks app today. Use the code CLNS. Get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. This is the third installment of Niners Seahawks this year. You rewind back to week 1. Niners won this matchup to kick off the 2025 campaign. 17-13, the final score. Niners scoring 7 points on their first offensive drive of the year. As Brock Purdy found George Kittle on that out route, Kittle got hurt and then would be out for more than a month after that. The Niners did not score again until 10 points in the fourth quarter. A Jake Moody field goal, and then Brock Purdy finding Jake Tonches after going 5 for 5 against that vaunted Seahawks defense on that game-winning drive. Brock in that game did throw 2 interceptions. He threw 2 picks against the Eagles. Can't happen in this game against the Seahawks, I believe, especially on the road. And then the Nick Bosa strip sack sealed it. You look back to week 18, 2 weeks ago, I thought San Francisco was bullied in the trenches. They were better in the trenches against the Eagles yesterday when they needed to be. San Francisco has to have a performance like that in this game, like they did against the Eagles and not like they did against the Seahawks. Niners against the Seahawks in week 18 could not run the ball at all. There were no holes there for Christian McCaffrey. San Francisco had under 200 yards of total offense. Brock Purdy averaged about 4 yards per pass against that Seahawks defense. And the Niners defense, bad against the run, but I would say okay in general. And I also think Seattle didn't really want to put the ball in harm's way with Sam Darnold. You look at how the Seahawks stack up. Statistically, one of the more well-rounded teams in the NFL. Second in points per game at 28.4, eighth in yards per game, sixth in yards per play. They do struggle on third downs and in the red zone. That was also the case at times against the Niners outside of that awful back-breaking 3rd and 17. The Seahawks defense, stellar unit, coordinated and coached up by Mike McDonald. Number 1 scoring defense in the league, 17.2 points per game. 5th in yards per game. 2nd in yards per play. Not a lot of explosives there. They're so sound at all 3 levels. Number 1 third down defense in the league. And then 4th in red zone touchdown scoring percentage. The Niners here, 10th in points per game, 7th in yards per game, 11th in yards per play, 1st on third downs, number 5 in the red zone. And then Robert Saleh making chicken salad out of chicken shit with that defense. 13th in points per game given up at 21.8. The yards per game, yards per play, not great there. 20th, 24th, third downs, 19th. But the Niners, 12th in red zone touchdown scoring percentage. I thought they did some nice things in the red zone against Philadelphia yesterday. As far as my keys to the game, Kyle Shanahan said after that Eagles win, we know that we can play better. The Niners have to. They have no other choice if they want to keep their season going and advance to the NFC Championship game once again. Total offense for the Niners in Week 18, 173 total yards against Seattle, 4.1 yards per play. It was one of the finer defensive performances that you will see, especially with how hot that Niners offense had been. Brock Purdy only threw for 120 passing yards. The time wasn't there on his dropbacks. The pressure was in his face all throughout that game, but nobody got open downfield either. Velcro coverage from that Seahawks secondary. The Niners only ran it 12 times for 53 yards. They turned it over once. It came in the red zone. That'll kill you. And then the Niners got dominated in time of possession. 37 minutes to 22. They also got dominated in time of possession yesterday, but they still came out with the win. Key to the game number 2, the trench play just has to be better with the Niners offensive line and with the Niners defensive line. And especially on the offensive side of the football. That's where the Niners have to make their money here because they're so shorthanded on defense. And Brock Purdy against the Seahawks in Week 18. He was pressured on 12 of 32 dropbacks. 38%, second highest rate that he had experienced this year. When he was pressured, didn't fare all that well. 4 of 8 for 29 yards, and he was sacked 3 times. Obviously, Trent Williams helped to elevate the Niners offensive line against Philadelphia. Trent Williams did not play in Week 18. Having him back changes everything for the Niners. I told you that last week. Can the Niners run the ball in this game. This Seahawks rushing defense might be the best in the NFL. Yards per rush, 3.7. It's number 1 in the NFL. The Niners, 30th in yards per carry this year. Rushing yards per game, 91.6. That's number 3. It's so difficult to run it against this Mike Macdonald scheme. Okay, Kyle Shanahan schemed something up, and it just helps that your offensive line is going to be better, hopefully, with Trent Williams. This Niners defense must stop the run. This allowed Seattle to possess the football, hog the football, eat up so much time, and it kept that Niners offense stagnant, getting cold on the sideline. Robert Saleh's game plan against the Eagles was a masterclass. Blitzing timely, but also faking blitzes, dropping out of it. I thought the linebackers played pretty well. Eric Kendricks, Garrett Wallow. And how about Eric Kendricks? He's one of the unsung MVPs of that Niners victory against the Eagles yesterday. He was picked up in late November. 73 total snaps, 31 in coverage, 5 targets, 42 yards allowed, had the pass breakup to end the game, 10 total tackles. The big one here, no missed tackles. The Niners in Week 18 missed 18 tackles against the Seahawks. Kept the chains moving for Seattle. 2 TFLs for Kendricks as well, and 5 stops. What a big-time performance from him. And then lastly, can the Niners get that big Sam Darnold turnover? In big games, Darnold has struggled, although in his last 2, ended the game well against the Rams en route to that 30-14 comeback in Week 18. I thought he was fine, but I also think the Seahawks didn't really put a lot on his plate. But if you pressure Darnold, he can crater. You're playing in the divisional round. The pressure is on the Seahawks in this game. It's not on the Niners. They're playing with house money. Darnold did throw 14 picks during the regular season. You didn't get any turnovers in Week 18. Can you generate a turnover or 2 in this game? That would be massive, and that could win it for San Francisco. And can you imagine if they beat the Eagles as 6-point underdogs and beat the Seahawks as touchdown underdogs? We'll continue to monitor the statuses of Ricky Pearsall and Fred Warner. Ricky Pearsall wasn't even close to playing against the Eagles with that PCL injury that really stabilizes the knee. That's huge for a wide receiver. Cutting, running routes, stop, start, accelerating, decelerating. He's a game changer for the Niners offense, and having him would do wonders for San Francisco's passing attack. As for Fred Warner, Kyle Shanahan saying after that Eagles win, outside chance that he can play in this game. But Warner did say this on Friday on the Ryan Russillo podcast. I'm ready whenever they're ready. There's some T's that got to be crossed, I's that got to be dotted. If it were just up to me, I'd be out there this weekend against the Eagles. But unfortunately, it's not that way. I have to make sure I'm checking all the boxes, and everybody has to give me the okay before they let me go out there. But I'm pushing. I'm training hard. I'm back doing full football drills and everything. Fred Warner also put up a video on social media. He's moving around pretty damn well. Incredible athlete, incredible player, incredible person. So predict the score. Niners, Seahawks in the divisional round. Another great installment of this fantastic rivalry. I picked the Niners to lose last week. Egg on my face. I got to eat the crow. I was wrong. Please forgive me. Why not the Niners, man? At this point, F it. San Francisco wins by 2. 20-18 is my final score. This epic run continues. The Niners pull off another upset, and they shock everybody.